Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Blue Clouds TV. It's flight number 124 airborne as usual. Like I always say when I when we go live. You know what? Today is another day. It is January the 2nd. It's actually January the 2nd, January 12th, 2022, and we're streaming live. We're here to talk about January transfer, which we've seen. We've seen it. I mean, January transfer window is open, but then Chelsea need a specific player to fill in a specific position. We all know what has happened to our left back situation and some other position that we're gonna look at too. We'll look at who is the best fit to replace Ben Chilwell, as Ben Chilwell has been ruled out for the rest of the season. He's not going to be part of it. He's not going to be part playing part of any of the upcoming games. He'll be out for the rest of the season. But then there are other players that we'll be looking at. We'll be looking at what happened, what transfer into the Lucas Digne situation, why he couldn't sign for Chelsea. He's moved on to Aston Villa. He's already have medicals and all that kind of stuff done. But we have another loan player, which will be he's still on the loan. He's having difficulties right now. He's not really set if he wants to join Chelsea or if he wants to continue the season with Lyon, which is Emerson Palmieri. Now it's been shifted to another player, which is Kennedy. Kennedy has been recalled again. So I know QB. I have a wonderful friend who will be joining us here very soon. I will introduce him to the scene. And also, before we go into the transfer talk and everything, he's going to give us a little bit his expectations of the big game coming up. And then I think within an hour here soon. So QB will be here with us. Let me introduce him to the scene. To the screen first, guys. QB is with us. QB, welcome to the stream.
Hi, thanks for having me again. I think this is my third
Third
time being
time.
on, if I'm
Yeah.
correct. And yeah, it's always a pleasure to come and talk stuff about Chelsea. So yeah, looking forward to getting into this.
Yeah, guys, if you don't know much about him, he is a very, very great advocate of Chelsea Football Club. He has lots of followers and he knows the inside out of Chelsea Football Club. A lot of people follow him because of his knowledge about the game. So if you don't know much about him, he's on Twitter. You can check him out. So now, before we get into the transfer news and all that kind of stuff, I want to ask you a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the big game tonight, which is Chelsea traveling to North London to face Tottenham Hotspurs. What's your take on this game?
Really looking forward to it. I think that the last trip we took to Spurs' stadium was quite a memorable one. I remember the second half, especially. We had a pretty timid first half, and in the second half, we absolutely dominated. Lukaku had a field day. Rudiger got on the score sheet. It was a really comfortable win. And the same happened in the first leg of this tie at Stamford Bridge as well. A really comfortable 2-0 win. We completely took charge of the match, complete dominance. Harry Kane and Heung-min Son, Spurs' best players, looked like they weren't particularly interested. Then for this leg, we have, I believe, Heung-min Son is still out injured, which is good for us. I reckon in terms of the team we're going to be facing, we're probably going to be putting out a relatively strong team, but we're not going to be fielding our strongest side because of the Man City game coming up at the weekend, I think, because we have to keep that in mind, and I think the league is more important. Then again, it's one of those games where I think Tuchel has taken a good approach because he's said in his press conferences that he doesn't feel as if we've got our one foot in the final already. He feels as though we have to not be complacent and we have to take each game as it comes. And we're going to, have a good attitude for this match, hopefully. And really, hopefully we can settle the game early, get 1 or 2 goals in early and really kill the tie, in which case we can start to rest players, take players off and bring on some, maybe even some youth players, depending on how well it goes. But I'm expecting a win and I'm really excited.
From what you just said, it looks like it's going to be a boring game. It's going to be a game we've seen before, like the game against FC Porto in the second leg, where we're supposed to, you know, play whatever we can to be able to make it easy to move to the next stage. But we end up fielding in players that I haven't played together for quite a long time. But I believe, with the players that we have, Chelsea's supposed to, do the job. Two goals advantage going into the game. We can still do a job. Even we've played so many games without our big players, and we're still able to see ourselves through competitions. So I don't think we should be. Is it going to be difficult, QB? Will it be difficult, or you think Chelsea will make it?
Well, I think it will be a game, as you said, of managing expectations. We're not going to be taking things too hard, and we're not going to be playing our best players, as you said. For example, Thiago Silva and Kante came back
Right.
last night from COVID, but it's unlikely that they'll play a full 90 minutes. Well, impossible. I don't think they'll play a full 90. They might play some minutes, depending on how the game's going, because we want to keep them fit for the City game, as I said. But then again, as like I said, Spurs don't have Son, and Kane without Son is never as strong as he usually is. I feel like they are going to field a strong team, but then again, we probably will as well. I expect to see Lukaku playing. I expect to see Timo Werner playing alongside him because I want to see that strike partnership. I'm curious whether we field a 4 at the back or a 5 at the back, because obviously last time we played Spurs, kind of by default, because we had so many injuries at centre back, we ended up playing with a back 4 in this sort of 4-2-2-2 situation. And whether we follow that up again, that'll be really interesting
Right.
to see, because Conte is a very competitive manager, as we know, and he won't be taking this game lightly. So I don't imagine Tuchel will as well. So, like I said, it will be difficult, but I'm hoping we can get 2 goals, early and just
Yeah.
kill the tie.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, we're all hoping for the best. And then I want to acknowledge fans that have always joined us here. We have Mikhail in the chat, and we have Shade and Blues. Big up to you, brother Steven. Big up to you guys that have been here. Mikhail, it's been a long time. I hope you're doing well. DJ Sav, big up to you too. And then I know the chat is getting very busy over there. DJ Sav said Mikhail, big up to you. He said Kennedy is not coming. Kennedy is not coming from DJ South. Oh my days, man. We're gonna have problem with this left back situation. So yeah, what's your predicted scoreline? Can you give me a predicted scoreline? Or you can?
I think we'll get a clean sheet. I think we'll score 2 goals. So I think it'll be the same as the first game, a 2-0 result,
I,
4-0 overall across the 2 legs.
yeah, I think we're probably in the same. I'm in the same situation. I said 3-0, keeping the clean sheet. You know, we always play good. So I don't know, why do you think we play so good even without playing our top striker? Without Lukaku, it looks like we play much better without Lukaku. I don't know if you've really noticed that Lukaku plays much better from the bench when he comes in, but anytime he starts, I don't know why we don't play that good.
Well, I think our system doesn't really suit Lukaku. Then again, it's a fine balance. I was chatting to some friends about this yesterday, about the balance of when you sign a £100 million striker, you expect to adapt your team to the way they play to some extent because they're a £100 million striker and they're going to
Right.
be your main source of goals. That being said, Lukaku needs to also adapt his game to how we play, and he hasn't really done that. With the way we play as well, I think there's a multiple of factors. One factor is the fact that we play this sort of really aggressive counter-pressing style of football, where whenever we lose the ball, we are immediately getting it back, and we're often penning teams in their final third. Lots of teams we're playing against are often having to play a low block, which doesn't really suit Lukaku, because if you look at Lukaku's time at Inter,
Yeah.
with him and Lautaro Martinez up front, they'd be often playing really aggressive against the defenders, and the defenders would be playing quite a high line, meaning there's lots of space in behind for, Lautaro to really be aggressive with his press and Lukaku to run in behind and run at defenders, which is what he loves to do. And like, for example, in the Aston Villa game, we
Right.
saw that, for example, when he won the penalty, when he run ups against a defender. But when Chelsea play how we usually play, and we're playing against a low block, Lukaku doesn't really get the chance to do that. He's kind of playing as more of this like point man, or which, as Tuchel has said before, and kind of like a target man that he was kind of used like in Man United. So that isn't obviously how it really suits his play. On top of that as well, I just think the minutes for the players around him and his own minutes as well just haven't really been able to gel. Like we still have no idea what Chelsea's best front three is. Like we have Werner's been inconsistent, Havertz has been inconsistent, and he had COVID as well. Lukaku, if you look at the actual attendance list for like our squad, Lukaku is 14th on that list in terms of minutes, which means he obviously hasn't played as much as we would have liked him to play. And Pulisic's out of form. Ziyech is very inconsistent as well. So without a consistent front three of knowing how to best use Lukaku in that front three,
Yeah.
it means he's going to struggle until that's sorted out.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time to, trying to give us your opinion on why Lukaku doesn't play well. And we see various variation of how, the best thing we can do for Lukaku. We've seen who he used to play with at Inter, and then the kind of players he's playing with right now. Probably also, you just said the system. The system doesn't suit Lukaku very well, but we don't know what we can do to make the system suit Lukaku. But then it's a long way to go. It's just his first season coming back with Chelsea. We'll see. Probably we've seen Thomas Tuchel playing different kind of system right now. We've seen with the 4-2-2-2, which Manchester United are trying to play and they can't figure it out. We've seen the 4-3-3 also style. So we hope that going forward we can see different style. Tuchel can implement different formation that will work well for Romelu Lukaku. So yeah, let me read some of the comments, guys. I'm trying to keep this the interview or conversation we have here flowing. So don't get upset if I don't read some of these messages coming in. On transfer CFC, likely not looking to improve my any position in January, so expect a back tie player incoming at best. Emerson Bruger, no, I think anybody. I can't get a last name over there. Yeah, this is coming from Mikael. So yeah, I'll come back to some of these comments and then read them as we go on. Stephen Costi said that we shouldn't be worried about getting knocked out. We are 2-0 up and played some second and third choices against Tottenham. First choice, and they couldn't beat us. Got to love Tottenham. I agree with you, Stephen. I know we you have so much confidence. We played our our team B against their first team. They couldn't even play any good football. So yeah, I agree with you. We can make it without our top players, and it's also good to rest some of our players whilst we have City coming up next. So I agree with what Steven is saying. I agree with what QB just said over here. Okay, we're gonna move on from the big game. We're going to get into the transfer situation right now. QB, we're missing a left back right now. We've realized earlier in the season, Ben Chilwell went through a bad injury. He's not going to be with us to the rest of the season. Who would be the right player to fill in that gap? QB.
It's a question that has a very difficult answer that no one really knows for certain. I think what I can say for certain that is no one predicted that Chilwell would have an ACL injury and be out for the rest of the season, which proves that our depth in our team isn't maybe as deep as we thought it was initially. Because, for example, we now only have really Marcus Alonso as our only recognised left back in the team, which is all well and good. And he's actually, all credit to Marcus Alonso. He's not my favourite player, but he actually has played quite well recently. In particular games, especially in the Spurs game. We know he hates Spurs, so that was always good to see. But he's played, I believe, 8 of our last 9 games, Alonso, and the truth is that he just can't maintain that level of fitness throughout the season, which is understandable. So we do need a new left back. The question where that's going to come from has definitely been a contentious issue across the timeline on Twitter and across fan circles generally. I think one people's key target would have been Lucas Digne. Lucas Digne from Everton, who now has of course signed for Aston Villa. So that is an issue for us, or at least is on his way to signing for Aston Villa if he hasn't confirmed. Then we look at other options. We've got Serginho Dest, who is a right back / left back. He can play in both positions. And then we even having a look at potentially bringing back Ian Martin from a loan deal, or Emerson Palmieri, who are 2 options that are owned by Chelsea, playing at other clubs who we could look at to bring back.
Yeah, great options that we have there, but it looks like players that will not be possible for us to have will not be possible to make it back. Emerson, as you said, would not be a player that we can have back, and I'm not sure from what I read earlier on concerning Lucas Digne, it looks like Everton was looking for, I mean, a team that wants to buy him out, right? Not a loan deal. So, I mean, Everton, um, is it Everton, right? Right. I'm not so sure about the team that
Moving from Everton to Aston Villa.
Aston Villa came in that they want to buy him out, right? So I think that the deal really suits Everton, but then it's been very difficult. They went into trying to get Emerson, and it looks like Emerson Palmieri is not going to make it. So what can we do? What can we do? What would the
Yeah, I
best?
mean, when you look at Emerson's situation in France, and the truth is that he's actually quite happy in France for a start. I mean, if I can read to you
Right.
an interview that he did recently, he said, "I was well received. I'm a happy man. I'm also a happy father with a very happy family in Lyon. If I had decided today, I would have no problem telling you that I can stay in Lyon. It doesn't depend on me. It depends on the clubs, the people, and the situation." So the understanding is that Emerson himself as a player is happy where he is in France because he's getting way more consistent minutes than he did,
At
at
Chelsea.
Chelsea. I think under Tuchel, I believe he only played 5 times across a number of games, whereas for Lyon, as of the writing of the article that I just read, he's played 19 times. So he's played over 3 times more games already, which is key for him at this stage. He's also well liked by the Lyon fans. If you talk to a lot of Lyon fans in the circles, he is known as one of their most consistent players right now. Like Lyon don't sit very high in the table; they're sort of mid-table in Ligue 1 right now. And their players, well, they're in a pretty poor financial situation as well. Like they haven't bought many players. I think they signed Emerson and Shaqiri in the summer,
Yeah.
and I think that was it. And both of those, obviously, Emerson was a loan, and Shaqiri cost, I think, 5 million, which isn't too much at all. And they've sold a lot of players as well. Like Maxwell Cornet is a great example of a good player that Lyon have had to sell recently. Who's just signed for Burnley and is doing amazing over there. So Lyon don't really want to lose him. They see it as a bad PR move
Yeah.
if they were to lose him because they've not signed many players. And the fact is, if they then had to lose a player because their parent club wanted them back, who's especially one of Lyon's most consistent players, it would be seen as really bad from the board. So Lyon are reluctant to get rid of him. On the other side of things, we're in a very unique situation where Chelsea are almost having to pay to bring back a player that we already own.
Yeah. A compensation. A compensation.
Yeah, because if you look at the details of it, the
Yeah.
reason we've put in these deals of about 3.3 million, I believe the last one was, is because it's compensating for Lyon paying a 500,000 fee to sign him on loan, which includes add-ons, which are, we don't understand the full details, but it looks like it's about 1 million they spent to bring him on loan. But then you
Right.
have another couple of million in total of Emerson's wages that they've paid for the 6 months that they've had him so far. So those combined equate to about this fee we're looking at to bring him back, because we also didn't have a recall clause in Emerson's contract. So we couldn't just pay a certain fee and bring him back, regardless of what Lyon want. So we're in this unique position where we're negotiating with a club who don't really want to get rid of him, even though we own him. So it looks unlikely at this stage that it will happen. Obviously, things can change in the transfer window. Still has over 2 weeks to go, so we don't know, but it looks unlikely right now.
Yeah, I agree with it. I agree with whatever Emerson is thinking of. Being at Chelsea, you didn't get much minutes. Playing for Lyon, the fans adore you. The fans like you. You've been getting much minutes from your current club. Why wouldn't you finish the rest of the season? Who even think that after Chilwell come back, are you going to be the number one? But then if you're very lucky, who knows? Lyon might buy you with some good money and then give you that starting position that you've earned. You earn the love of the trust and the love of the Lyon fans. So yeah, I wouldn't be. I would be very happy to stay at Lyon if I was in his position. I would be happy to stay at Lyon, but then it's gonna be very difficult to get a very good player in that position. So in this position, we're now left with Serginho Dest or an academy player to fill in that position, because Alonso, we cannot use Alonso to play the rest of the game or use Alonso for the entire season. Alonso will break down. We know how he can play. He can be very good he can be consistent for 2-3 games, and then he breaks down. And then he becomes the real Alonso, as we all call him. So I don't think I'm not so sure about the Serginho Dest movement right now from Barcelona. So if Serginho doesn't work, I heard about Emerson. Uh, what's his name? The other guy, the other left back. We sent him on loan, Kennedy. So we'll be left with Kennedy and then an academy player. Which of these players are you gonna go with? An academy player, or try to fight to get one of these loan players back to the club?
It's a very difficult question, because Kennedy is one of those unique players who's had
Right.
an awful lot of loans at Chelsea, which actually isn't actually that unique. Now I say it, he's been out on loan an
Yeah.
awful amount of times, and in the pre-seasons as well, he's never really shown a particular reason for him to stay at the club. Um, a lot of the time when he was out on loan in Portugal and Spain and places like this, it was never truly defined what position he actually plays, like whether he's a winger, whether he's a wing back, whether he just plays as a normal left back position. He's certainly capable of it, and it's not an option that I would hate, because the truth is that we have to look at this left back position as one that is purely a filling role, because
Right.
when Chilwell comes back, he will obviously be the starting left back, no matter what. So whoever comes in has to come in with the understanding that they won't be the first choice in 6 months' time or next season, when Chilwell's back. So Kennedy's an interesting one. I think that probably would show a lack of intent from us, because, we're still fighting on loads of fronts this season. We've got FA Cup, Carabao Cup, Champions League, Club World Cup, and the
Yeah.
Premier League, although obviously the Premier League looks kind of dead now. But we've still got, I think I checked earlier, and we still have potentially 33 games to play this season if we
Right.
do end up getting to the final of each competition, which is going to be a lot, and we need someone to fill in that place. So when I look at the academy, though, you have some good options there. I think Lewis Hall is
Lewis Hall.
actually an underrated option, who played for Chesterfield in the Chesterfield game. Sorry,
Yeah.
he played at left centre back, but in the academy he is being
Outstanding.
used as a left back and a wing back, as you say. So he's probably more suited actually to that left wing back position, than he is to the left centre back. So he's one that we could be looking at. And as you said, the other option would be someone like Ian Martson, but as it's been made pretty clear that Coventry don't plan on letting him go, and we don't plan on bringing him back either. So
Right.
I would actually be looking at maybe to the academy and someone like Lewis Hall rather than Kennedy, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. We have to trust in the academy, the academy that we've invested lots of money into. So it's about time we trust these guys, and it's been proven that when we give them the chance, we give them the opportunity, they are always there to deliver. We've seen it with Reece James, we've seen it with Mason Mount, we've seen it with Christensen also. Now we've seen it with Lewis Hall, and then Hall. We've seen it with Hall, and then we've seen it with what's his name, the other striker. They're young. They haven't scored goals though, but we know what they can do when given that opportunity. So, yep. Now we're gonna move on. We've seen. I mean, the problem hasn't been solved yet, but they were trying to come up with the right solution. And then, as QB said, a player from the academy will solve our problem. We've seen these young players played, and then they played very well. So I agree with what QB just said. Now we're gonna move on to another player that looking like he's getting back to his shape. Saul. Tell me a little bit about Saul. I know beginning of the season, Saul looked very awful. Probably I was thinking maybe it has to do with him not getting much time. He was looking very rusty when he played for Chelsea. Everybody was like, this guy is not good. But it looks like we've seen the best out of Saul. Do you think he's a guy we can keep? Oh, just like how they said, are we gonna let him go in the summer?
I mean, Saul is he's a unique player, because, as you said, his start to the season was awful.
Very
There's
awful,
no
yeah.
there's no nice way to say it, is there? Every time I remember, I was actually there for his debut. I was at Stamford Bridge
Yeah.
for the cup game. I think it was a cup game or a league game against Villa.
Yeah, it was a cup game.
That's right, yeah, and he just was not good. He was just really slow on the ball. He didn't seem to be strong. He seemed to lose it a lot. He was getting caught in possession, some sloppy passes. Just didn't look like he understood his position, where he was meant to be playing, and how he was used in the system. But then again, I think we had to cut him some slack, because he's one of these players who was in a unique situation in the past few years. He's been a key part of an Atletico Madrid side that have fought for league titles. He's played in a Champions League final, or at least been in the squad for a Champions League final with Atletico Madrid. As I said, he technically won the league last season, even though he wasn't playing as often. But in recent times, when we signed him, the reason he wanted to move was because he'd been sort of singled out by Simeone, seemed to have fallen out of him at Atletico, was being often played out of position at left wing back, and just wasn't getting minutes. So he was not in good form when we signed him. So I think there was a certain expectation for us that this would be a fresh start for him. But then again, you have to remember that he came in on bad form, so he wouldn't just flick a switch and play brilliantly straight away. That being said, as the year's gone on, and obviously he's been training a lot, he's clearly been working hard, and we have to remember that we have one of the best managers in the world in Thomas Tuchel, who can seemingly get the best out of all kinds of players. Like, look at great examples, Rudiger, who was out of form, looked like he was halfway out the door under Lampard, and is now a key player under Thomas Tuchel, and arguably one of the best centre-backs in the world. So Tuchel can transform players' careers, and with the hard work that he's put in these past few games, he looks a lot more consistent. He looks like he's passionate and working hard, making some in the Spurs game last week where he got man of the match. He was making some brilliant challenges, really aggressive in the press. It was a really important part of us dominating the midfield in that game. And I think going forward, it's that all being said, unlikely that we will take him in the summer, I think, because he would cost around 30 million, which we probably want to save for other signings because I think we have other priorities in the market. For example, a proper defensive midfielder like Declan Rice, or even another attacker like there's still, even to this day, reports of wanting Erling Haaland still. So we want to be saving as much money as we can, and we actually have a lot of midfielders coming back from loan as well. Next season, obviously, we have Billy Gilmore and Conor Gallagher both coming back from loans. Conor Gallagher especially has had an excellent season at Crystal Palace, and it's likely that he will be involved in the Chelsea squad next season. So Saul would be taking up unnecessary room. So I personally feel like we won't be signing him, and all signs so far are that we also won't be signing him.
Yeah, I know a lot of people have been talking about this Chelsea loaning to Crystal Palace. And then Billy Gilmore also there, yeah, but some people, Chelsea the fan base is being divided. Some don't really rate those players. They think that because they're playing in a lower team, I mean, playing the Premier League, all right, but then they don't really fancy them. They don't think they can make it when they come to Chelsea, especially Conor Gallagher. But I believe that with opportunity given to them, playing with world-class players as they have here at Chelsea, will be much more different. It will give him much more, chance to show what they can do more or less than playing with the Crystal Palace. But then we'll see in the how would they call it, the preseason competitions and stuff like that we're gonna have. That's when we're gonna see what Conor Gallagher can offer Chelsea and what Armando Broja, we saw much of him during the preseason. But I think it was the best thing for Thomas Tuchel to let him go on loan. But I know that Billy Gilmore is going through lots of problems right now with Norwich. Is it Norwich fans, right? They're really abusing the guy, and we all see anytime Billy Gilmore played for Chelsea, he ended up being the MVP or the MVP and of the game, man of the match position. He'll end up playing very well. So I don't know why Tuchel doesn't really fancy him. Some people say it probably has to be with his height and his stature of the player, so small, and Tuchel doesn't really like fielding in small players. It's it's so some also say it's a BS, but then I don't know. We'll put those players aside. Well, now we just talk about Billy Gilmore. We've also talked about the left back situation. We thought maybe an academy player can come in, and Saul. Like I said, are we giving Saul that long of a time to stay with the club? And you said, yeah. It looks like Thomas Tuchel can work with him, give him an opportunity, and change his style and mold him to become a different player. And it looks like we are seeing it. With time, these players can become better player. We don't have to rush and send them away like you've done with Mo Salah, and then De Bruyne, and some other players that as of now we always regret we did. So we're gonna move on with these players. Now we're gonna talk about the combination between these two strikers, the German Timo Werner, and then also Romelu Lukaku. We talk about Lukaku a little bit. So what do we do with these two players? Timo Werner, how long are you giving Timo Werner at Chelsea?
Great question. And it's one that I personally have a bit of bias towards because Timo Werner is one of my favorite players. I absolutely love his attitude and
Yeah.
the way he applies himself every game. Like, even though he misses an awful lot of chances, and that can be really frustrating, he also creates an awful amount of chances. Like, we have lots of creative players, but none of them create the amount of goal scoring opportunities that Timo Werner finds himself in. Whether he's making them himself and setting up other players, or he's getting himself into positions to tap away a goal as well, or setting up someone else. Look at last season. I think a lot of people forget last season Timo Werner had 27 goals and assists combined across all competitions, which was our highest goal contributions out of any player. Much higher than Tammy, much higher than Jorginho. Obviously, a lot of those goals weren't necessarily in the Premier League. But I really rate Timo, and he's in a weird position this season because he's not really taken that momentum last season that he had, where he was playing not his best football, but he was, like I said, he was technically our highest goal contributor, and he's not really contributed in that way this season. I think there are some issues there because he's been obviously had issues with injury and COVID, very similar to Lukaku actually, in that he's missed out for both of those reasons, if my understanding is correct. So he hasn't had quite the minutes that he wants. And then when it comes to him and Lukaku, we just haven't seen them play together really. We've only seen, I don't know what the exact number is, but it can't be anything more than 10 games of Lukaku and Werner playing together. We have to really look at the formation and how it works because obviously last season we were playing in attack. We were playing with two number 10s behind a false 9 in Kai Havertz. Whereas Lukaku, in his system, as we discussed, Lukaku plays best with another striker. His best season in his career was with Lautaro Martinez at Inter Milan, where he's playing on this right side. And Roberto Martinez, the Belgian manager, has even said that Lukaku might not even necessarily be a striker. He said that Lukaku's best position is as like a right forward, like a right-sided 10 who can play on that right wing and cut in, use his strength, run at defenders, all that kind of stuff. And as I said, at Chelsea, he's not really been able to do that. So what we would maybe want to see is a system where rather than using two number 10s, we're using one number 10, say a Mason Mount or a Hakim Ziyech, someone like that, and then using Lukaku up front with another striker, whether that's Timo Werner or Kai Havertz or even Christian Pulisic, who's also very capable of running in behind, being aggressive with his counter press, being quick, which is what you need because you need players. When you're playing with Lukaku, you need strikers who are going to be a distraction. You're going to need players like Mason Mount and, like I said, Pulisic, who are always, and Timo as well, who are running at defenders, getting into positions that are causing fullbacks and centre-backs to think about their positioning and try and cut off those runs and be aggressive. And that kind of makes, in an ideal world, Lukaku is kind of hiding in plain sight, where his other attackers around him are doing all the work and dragging defenders out of position, which is allowing Lukaku to operate in his ideal position on the right-hand wing. He can run at defenders, he can come in, he can operate in a space. We know he's brilliant at moving in the box. His movement is excellent. So what I would love to see is, sort of a more regular attacking position where we've got two strikers playing together, and Lukaku, whether that's with Werner or Havertz. But for Werner personally, kind of going back to your initial question, I do see him potentially leaving in the summer because we do have, as we've mentioned before, Erling Haaland interest, and apparently Borussia Dortmund are interested in Timo. So if we're able to include that in some kind of exchange, I think it would be hard to say no to that kind of deal, especially now Timo's had 2 seasons. That being said, if this second half of the season comes around, we're playing 2 strikers and Timo and Lukaku suddenly gel together and are actually making regular goal contributions together, whether they're assisting each other, then Timo might actually have a future here.
Yeah, thank you, QB, for that. For letting the viewers know your opinion about these two strikers. But before I go on, let me let the viewers and then the guys that are on the chat know that I'll take time. In the next 10 minutes to go. I have QB here for almost about an hour. So the next 10 minutes to go, we'll go back to the chat and then read all your comments, and then we'll take time to answer them. I want to keep this conversation flowing as much as I can. I've seen all of them. I'm highlighting the comments coming in, but there's some of them. The comments need an attention, which we will take time to go into them. Also, don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and always keep the bell notification icon active. So if it's the first time watching us, you don't miss anything from us next time when you go live. So keep it burning. Enjoy it, and let us know what you think of the conversation. So where we're gonna move on, as QB said. He sees the interest of, Borussia Dortmund having an interest of signing Timo Werner, and also Chelsea also still having an interest of bringing the Norwegian big guy, which will be Erling Haaland, back to bring him to Chelsea. It's a player that between Erling Haaland and Lukaku. I know Lukaku was a panic buy for Chelsea Football Club, and I know you agree with me. Was he not a panic buy for Chelsea?
It's definitely one of those where it's hard to say that someone that was signed for 100 million is a panic buy, but then again, we did need a striker, and I think when it became clear that Haaland wasn't going to be moving this summer, Lukaku was our next best option. Yeah.
So yeah, I always classified that as a panic buy. To me, I didn't really fancy Lukaku because I know how he plays, and you can tell also the formation. The style that we play, the formation that we're playing doesn't allow lots of attacking players going forward. But then when you can see the difference when we got back playing four at the back, playing a 4-3-3 or 4-2-2, 4-2-2-2, we could tell that it gives so much freedom to the attacking players, whilst the left back sits behind and let the attackers do more of the job, and it allows so much attacking players in the game at that moment. So I think maybe we'll see if that formation might help Lukaku play at his best. What do you think of playing different formation without formation expose Lukaku to play at his best?
It's definitely possible, because as I mentioned, I think he works best with a second striker. So that obviously naturally is covered in that formation. I think having two tens behind him as well allows for some interesting pressing in the game, because it allows for the tens to press forward, and cause issues as well, distract defenders, which again, that's hopefully will allow Lukaku, as I said, to kind of act as this. He's obvious, but he's in disguise. That kind of thing. I also think as well with four at the back, you have more cover in midfield, which is always helpful. And then if the option comes through where we get a good fullback, because obviously with Reece James and wherever that's Alonso or whoever it is on the wings, if they are using width and getting forward, they're going to be putting in some great crosses, and we know that Lukaku is great in the box with his movement, as evidenced in the game recently where he scored a great header with some last minute movement against Aston Villa, I believe it was, which was assisted by I can't actually remember who assisted him. I think it was Mason Mount, maybe, but whoever it was, the cross was great, and that's what we need. So if we can get those kind of crosses in and a four at the back, that is definitely going to be more helpful for as well.
I agree with you. Giving him a different style or different formation might help Lukaku play at his best. So the next one we're gonna move on. We're gonna talk about, I don't know. Almighty Blues FC, big up to you. Nice to see you here, brother. I know you're having your dinner, but then try as much as you can to tune in. Just turn your volume down a little bit so you don't disrupt your dinner. Enjoy it anyway. Big up to you, Trevor's, Steven. Nice to see all of you here. If you guys have any questions, don't forget, just send them in, and then within the last 15 minutes to go, we will go through some of the chats and then bring them up, like I've said. So if you're just joining us, don't forget to send your questions in, and then QB will take his time to answer those for us as we move on. Now he's gonna get one more thing that we have. It will take quite some time to finish that specific subject. Antonio Rudiger, give us the inside out of why Chelsea are not willing to renew the contract of Antonio Rudiger, and then trying to meet his demand with your own. I mean, whatever you know, you can give us the inside out of it. Antonio Rudiger, why are Chelsea not willing to extend his contract?
Well, there's an awful lot of factors involved in that, and it is a complicated subject. The truth be told is that only Rudiger and his club and his agent know the exact reasons why this hasn't happened yet. That being said, I will say that I think Chelsea fans forget that historically we often make deals for players very last minute when it comes to contract deals. For example, even in the past decade or so, when it came to renewing contracts of Frank Lampard, Didier Drogba, John Terry, all these kinds of players back in the day, they often wouldn't actually renew the contract until March, April time, which is obviously really late in the season because there's only a month or two then until the season's over. So I wouldn't be totally in panic station mode just yet. I think what it is, to summarize it kind of as quickly as possible, is that there's a caution on Chelsea's side on how much they want to spend on Rudiger. Because on Rudiger's camp, they will be arguing that he has been outright, arguably, the best centre-back in 2021.
Yeah.
His run since Tuchel came in January to get to the Champions League win, and then his run in the Premier League this season has been unbelievable. His transformation in terms of his aggression, his ball winning, his sort of shithousery, if we can say that, like the way that his attitude on the pitch with like these sort of jokey moments and and he obviously like riling the crowd up and getting them in that good mood is stuff that's just unrivaled, and you can't teach that kind of attitude really, to a player can be a great player, but to have that kind of attitude is really unique, and that's why the fans absolutely love him. And it's a reason that we want him all to stay. And then you look at other pundits as well, other real professional pundits, like for example the Match of the Day team. I think it was Alan Shearer and Ian Wright. They brought out their sort of team of the season so far.
Yeah.
A few days ago, Rudiger was in that team as a centre back. So this year, he's obviously justified earning more money on a contract, because when you're one of the best players in the world, when you look at his current deal, which I believe is somewhere around the £100,000 mark, if not a bit less, and when you look at players around him, like the best centre backs in the world, the Van Dijks and the Chiellinis, the De Ligts, all these Ruben Dias, they're all sitting easily over £150,000 a week. So, he perfectly justifies earning that kind of money based on this year. Chelsea, however, look at his age and see him as near 30 years old. And we know what Chelsea are like historically, pretty bad at negotiating deals for players over 30 years old. They often don't give them deals more than a couple of years. And they also look at Rudiger historically, because this year he's been amazing, but people forget that Rudiger's played for us for 3 or 4 years now.
Yeah,
and
4 years.
A lot of those years, exactly. And a lot of those years he was incredibly inconsistent. In especially under Lampard's tenure, in sort of most recent memory, he was almost sidelined by the club, by Lampard. He didn't really want to play him. He was pretty bad at a back four, frankly. Right. He had some memorably bad games. I remember one against Sheffield United in particular, where I just remember thinking that I am perfectly happy to sell Rudiger right now. Like, it was that kind of bad. And I think that's not even that far away. If you look about it in a business standpoint, that was only over a year ago, maybe 18 months ago. And Chelsea look at that and think, is Rudiger in 1 or 2 years still going to be the player that he is right now? Or is he going to go back to the player that he was 2 or 3 years ago? Yeah, and I think they can understandably justify maybe not paying him as much as he potentially wants. For example, the 140,000 seems like a compromise between the high wages of the best centre-backs in the world and the slightly lower wages of players. That being said, we are potentially losing Rudiger and Christensen and Azpilicueta this summer, who all haven't signed new deals yet. Mm-hmm. And it does make you worry as a Chelsea fan, doesn't it? It makes you think that you just want this done. the longer time goes. So I don't know what you think.
Yeah, it's very difficult to say. I mean, since we're not in there, we can't really tell what is really going on, what is stopping these players to renew their contract, especially Christensen, whom I think that he's been playing quite well. Sometimes he's a bit dodgy under Thomas Tuchel, but then Tuchel has given him I've given these players opportunity to excel. But then I don't know what is also stopping Christensen from re-signing. Rudiger, we all know that probably I'll say sometimes certain players are not suitable with certain position formations that they found themselves. We know Rudiger was playing very well from AS Roma before we brought him to the club, and then we know how bad he was playing under Frank Lampard. To under Frank Lampard's style and formation, he was always thinking about an attack, an attack, an attack. But you could tell how bad his defense was. He could score 10 goals and still yet be able to concede almost about 8 of them. He scores 10, he concedes 10. So under Frank Lampard style of play, you could tell that his defensive way, his defense was very bad. I know it was his under his regime. We have to bring in a defensive coach to come and help him, and it still did not work. That is how he lost the trust of Chelsea fans, and then also by sidelining your big players as Peliqueta, who were really defending very well for you, and Rudiger also. I know Alonso has his own issue with the team and then with Lampard himself. So I think it did not even help Lampard at all, and it did not even help some of the players who really on top of their game. So yeah, like I said, I don't know the whole contract situation of Antonio Rudiger. From what we speculate and what we've read behind the scenes, it looks like this is the guy who wants to make this amount of money. He knows that this is his last big contract he can ever get before he retires from international football. And I always tell some people that look, these guys, that is all they do. If should in case Antonio Rudiger goes through a very bad injury, like we have this guy from Inter Milan, the guy who used to play for Tottenham Hotspur. I think is it Ericsson. Ericsson can play good football. Can't play football anymore. Aguero can't play football anymore. So any of these things can happen to these players, and we see them as human beings. So if they really, I mean, they have their right to demand for what they're asking for. They need that money to be able to take care of themselves and their family after football. So sometimes I agree with the demand, the money that they're asking for. But no, if Chelsea's also looking at it in a business way, that if we give Rudiger that amount of money and we give him that years of contract, there's not going to be a resale value from Antonio Rudiger. So why do we have to give him that money? Do I make sense, QB, concerning this Rudiger situation?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as you said, Chelsea historically as well with players over 30 have always been a bit apprehensive about giving them big deals, because they do keep resale value in mind. And we have had issues with selling players in the past who are over 30 years old.
Right.
So as you said, health issues can be a thing. As I said, form is also a thing with Rudiger. As I said, whether he can keep the consistency that he's showing at the moment. And then you said things like Ericsson and Aguero will definitely be on clubs' minds, just from a business and standpoint as well, because as you said, player welfare is
Mhm.
not very good at the
I
moment.
understand.
They're playing so many games with very little respite and very little chance to really take care of themselves. So yeah, I can imagine that's both taxing on the body, but it's also taxing on the mind. They're going to be mentally struggling with that amount of games. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, they live in a very privileged position with a lot of money and the best medical professionals in the world. But your brain will always be affected by these kinds of things. It's not impossible to be affected. So yeah, I can understand it completely.
So if I should ask you, this is a January transfer. I know this is a very difficult question to ask. If I should give you that opportunity, how many of these players you're gonna let him go in this January transfer? Do you have any player that you're gonna let him go on loan or even sell him out from the club as of now?
Ross Barkley.
Barkley first.
Bye bye, Ross. Yeah, that's one I would absolutely okay with seeing bye bye to, because that Chesterfield game especially was just so bad. It was one of the worst performances I've seen from off the bench, and he just doesn't need to be here. he's one of these players that we could sell for at least maybe we signed him for I think 15 million, 20
Yeah,
million.
15.
We could sell him for around there. If not, send him out on loan to just get some minutes because he's just unnecessary. We have so many good players, especially academy players.
Yeah.
So yeah, see you later, Ross Barkley.
Well, bye bye, Robs. QB once you're gone. Once you're gone. So let's go back to some of we've done 50 minutes. Yeah, we have 10 minutes to go. So let's go back to some of these questions and I'm gonna read them out. So QB, let me know his perspective of those questions that came in. Um,
No worries.
yeah, this is coming from Stephen Costa. He said that we shouldn't be worried about getting knocked out. We are 2-0 up and played some second and third choice against Tottenham. First choice, and they couldn't beat us. Got to love Tottenham. What do you think? Second string side will take us through.
It's possible, yeah. That being said, this is a cup competition, and anything can happen in a cup competition.
Yeah.
Which I think even Thomas Tuchel has said we were 2-0 up in that first leg, but we don't have one foot in the final.
Mhm.
We still have very much both feet on the ground. We're gonna not be complacent. We do need to keep Man City in mind, so we will be fielding a lot of second string players, but as you said, yeah, it should be enough to get the job done.
Well, Stephen Costa said Kennedy is apparently in London in the coming hours. I don't know how true that is, but then Kennedy will like it. He like to come back and join the team that is winning the Champions League, and then a team that is in contention for so many competition, about five competition across the globe, right? We in about
Yeah,
five competitions.
we do have, that to go. We've already won the Super Cup, so we could even win 6 trophies this season. I think it's hard to say with those Kennedy rumors where that information has come from, how reliable it is. And I think, he personally as a player will be very happy to come back here because he's clearly got unfinished business and he's passionate about Chelsea. That much has been made clear from his appearances, but um, just from an ability standpoint, and he said where he plays, I just don't know if that's the right move for us. But it's one of those. It will definitely polarize opinion. I can tell you that.
Yeah, Mikel said why Chelsea plays so good. I think this is a famous statement coming from Pep Guardiola. Why Chelsea plays so good. You have this player here, you have that player here, and you have Team Everton in the middle, and they are play so wide.
So wide.
Wide. So yeah, that statement is Pep Guardiola's statement. Um,
Brilliant.
yeah, brilliant from him. This is coming from Mikel. He said that Kennedy always fletters to deceive veteran Jenuary better developed in EPL.
Interesting one. I mean, Bertrand Traore, don't get me wrong, is a decent player, but he's also at the Africa Cup of Nations right now.
Yeah.
So even if we were to sign him, he wouldn't be able to play for us for another month, and he could still get injured at the Africa Cup of Nations. So I don't see that one happening somehow. And Bertrand Traore was also the reason we got a transfer ban. If I don't think people will remember that, so
Remember
I don't
that,
think
yeah.
we'll be bringing him back anytime soon.
DJ Saab said Chelsea January don't do transfer in January. I think we've done transfers, some big transfers in January. Was Fernando Torres not brought to the club in January?
He was, yeah. He's our biggest transfer in January.
Yeah, so we have a couple of players that have come in January. It's just that it's not a good time to do bring in players during the January transfer window. It's not the best time because no one's gonna release this player to you during the middle of the season. You don't get the best out. You get, average players.
But also, I mean, people forget we're also still technically in a pandemic, and getting transfers done both from a financial standpoint, but also on a travel standpoint, is still difficult. So it's not like the transfer market is still like back to normal, as it were. We've still got these issues going on. So yeah, getting transfers done in January is difficult as it is. In a COVID pandemic, it's even more difficult.
Yeah, Stephen Costis said Lucas Digne is basically completed to Villa, all because Chelsea didn't go in aggressive enough to try and get him. What do you make of that?
Maybe to some extent, but then again, I don't see why they would. Because as we've mentioned, Chilwell will always be the first choice left back when he comes back, and Lucas Digne would have cost about 28 million, maybe 30 million.
to be on the bench.
So yeah, that's an awful lot of money for a player who won't be a starting player in 6 months' time. And we also forget, has actually not been playing that much this season. Rafa Benitez has clearly doesn't really like him, has shoved into the side, so he's kind of out of game time, doesn't have many minutes, isn't in his best form. He's also 28. I think people realize he's actually a bit older than we expect. So he's in his prime right now, but his prime won't last for very long. So I'm not upset that we didn't push for him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you are making a lot of sense. Mikhail said arguably we need to every transfer window at best we all bring in a third in line left backup, easily achieved by judging squad and academy options. I don't know what you make
Yeah,
of
I
that.
think I think as we discussed earlier,
Mhm.
academy options are definitely possible.
Yeah,
Lewis Hall is a great option, and also like we said, there are even third choice potential centre back, left back. Sorry, we haven't even mentioned like Tagliafico from Ajax, who's getting on a bit, isn't playing much. He would be a good option for third choice centre back. There's a couple of players even in La Liga that are possible to look at. If you bear with me 2 secs, there's Alex Moreno,
mhm.
who's 28. He plays for Bilbao, I think it is.
Yeah.
There's also Pedroza as well, who's playing over in Spain. And he is also another option. He's also 23. He's the same age as Chilwell, uh, and he's not a bad player at all. He's very similar to sort of Sergio Reguilon, in their kind of style of play, the way they like to run and get involved in the game. So he's another potential option, but it seems unlikely right now because I think he's got 2 years left on his contract. So unlikely he'll move. But there are other options, but academy's probably the best bet.
Yeah, and this is coming from Mikel, and I agree with him. The Chelsea CFC not going to bring in a top level candidate for left back with Chile and Alonso on books already. Not to mention Emerson. So yeah, they won't bring in a top player in for the left back position because you have Alonso still in the book. We have Ben Chilwell still on the book. Yeah, a lot of players. What should in case all these players come back? So they're
Exactly.
the
You've got Ian
best.
Martin still to come back,
Yeah.
and I think it's the only way that they bring in
It's a loan.
someone and they spend money is if they sell Alonso in the summer.
Right.
Because otherwise it doesn't make sense, does it?
It doesn't. It doesn't. So the best thing we're gonna do is to call an academy player, whom when Chua come back, we can send him back to the academy and know that we still have a prospect, an academy player who can do a job when we call on him. So yeah, I agree with that. Steven said, arguably, if um, ag- arguably, if we was able to recall Emerson, which won't happen now, then he would have beaten out Alonso for the position quickly.
It's definitely possible. I mean, you
Yeah,
say that though, but then Emerson was actually second string to Alonso a lot during Lampard's reign, and then obviously
there you
after the
go.
West Brom game,
There you go.
Alonso did go out and then Emerson did come in. But yeah, Alonso when Emerson was here and
Yeah.
Alonso and Chilwell were fit, but was left back. So
Alonso have the magic that people don't know. Alonso has a lot of magic. He's like a hot and cold guy. He can play very well in the whole entire uh, uh, football team, and he can play very well. And the Chelsea fans would be, yay, Alonso, we want Alonso, Alonso. Then Alonso resign. Then he start playing bad again. Alonso.
yeah,
So let me see what Steven said here. Steven said winner does work off ball, not everyone realizes and sometimes creates chances for others that aren't always taking them. Seems he got criticized for bad game when not his fault. Someone doesn't finish. I mean, he's trying to say that. I mean, Timo Werner really played very well, create chances, but then he makes chances. He gives opportunity to other people to finish, and yet they cannot finish the chances that Timo Werner create. But then he gets criticized a lot from the Chelsea fans. What do you make of
that's not untrue.
Steven?
I think it's not untrue for sure. I think it's just a lot of the chances that Werner misses are quite high profile misses.
Mhm.
Like for example, the one in the game the other day against Spurs when he like tried to chip Lloris and Lloris saved it. That was
Yeah.
like a good opportunity for 3-0. And I think we just remember those chances more often than we do others. But it's not wrong at all that Werner does create a lot, and all of our players historically have a problem with finishing. Like
Yeah.
again, we've got our top scorers in the Premier League this season. I think are Jorginho, Reece James, and Ben Chilwell. So that tells you all you need to know about how good our attackers are at finishing.
Yeah. It looks like a lot of people agree with you on the sale of um is a Barkley. Mikel said that sadly must agree on Barkley. Time to cash him in out. Him in, cut loses, but wages may be too high to offload easily, which I agree with Mikel. Steve Costa said Tuchel um, mentality. I like he said Tuchel's mentality. I like he says we don't think about first leg last season UCL and this season Carabao Cup. I'm trying to understand what Steven is trying to say. I think he's trying to say that he likes Tuchel's mentality in going to second legs. He always don't. He always say he doesn't think about the second leg, but then I'm not sure if what Steven is trying to say here. Do you really get what he was trying to say? Tuchel mentality. I like says Tuchel mentality. I like. He says we don't think about first leg last season
Yeah.
UCL and this season Carabao Cup. So
No, that is correct. Yeah, I think that's what I was saying as well. In Tuchel's press conferences, he's always very down to earth, and he always says that we won't take the game, even if we're winning from the first leg, we won't be 1 foot in the final. We still have work to do, and that's why we did so well in the Champions League, was because even though we went into a lot of these, like the Porto game, we went into it
right,
already in the lead. We
Mhm.
made sure that we got the job done. So I'm hoping we will do that tonight as well.
Yeah. DJ Sab said DJ Sab said Steven said Nizar Cancela colleague and Fabrizio Romano. Probably that's the way the source. You remember the source? We were talking about the recall of Kennedy. So he said that Nizar Cancela and then Fabrizio Romano had probably he tweeted about the recall of Kennedy.
This
So
seems to be. I'm just looking on my Twitter now, and it actually seems to have. Yeah, because news that we didn't really have when we went live. But Nizar is obviously a very popular Chelsea correspondent. He's
yeah,
also, he said Kennedy has been recalled by Chelsea from his loan at Flamengo, as per my colleague. And he said he's not coming back to be the left wing back replacement. He has another loan lined up, though. So he's not actually going to be coming back to replace Chilwell. He's coming back so he can go on loan elsewhere. So that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be the new left back.
okay. That's all set. QB just explained that to us. So I big up to you. I123 love you. She said hello, my brother. Nice to see you again. What's your prediction for the game? My prediction was I went with the 3-0, but looking at things, we're not gonna field our top players. So I'll go in for a 2-0 clean sheet for Chelsea again. Play them out of the park. Play good football, and that's what we're gonna see. Stavs, welcome to the stream. Sidaraki said, Mikhail, evening. So, is it Traore? It's a right-sided forward, sided forward. The troll. It's a right-sided, forward Kennedy. I don't get this, Mikhail.
Does he mean
Left-sided.
Adama Traore?
Adama Traore. Yeah.
I think he means him, yeah. He's definitely someone that we've looked at. But then again, it looks like Spurs are more interested in him than we are, which tells me all I need to know. I think Traore's okay, but I think he is really poor in the final thirds.
Final
And
third, yeah.
yeah, like he's really aggressive, and he can go on the pitch with the oil on his arms, and he can run at defenders all day long.
Funny.
But he's not going to be scoring any goals for us or making many assists.
Yeah, if you're talking about Demetri, I think we have one in our team, which is Timo Werner. He does all the work for us in 90 minutes. He'll run everywhere, but then the finishing, the final third, the passes he give in the final third is what we always looking at. It's the most important thing. We don't see them coming up from these players. Demetri will run, create, but then final third, how he finishes or the kind of pass he gives in the final third is what we're looking at. So this is coming from Steven. Steven said, I think our time is up. We've done 5 minutes over an hour. If you're joining late, we're sorry. This conversation has been very, very interesting. You want to rewind back or get back to the stream, and then you're gonna see what QB said on the stream and everything. It's been very entertaining and very educative subject that we went through. He gave us his insight of what he thinks the game was going to be today. He gave us his prediction and then some predicted lineup from him. Also, we talk about the Saul situation and then the combination, the pair, the relationship between Timo Werner and Lukaku on the pitch. How good can they play? How good can they work together? Is a system suitable for Lukaku? We talk about that also, so you can revisit the stream from beginning if you're just joining us. Steven said, all good here, Sportswire. Mikhail said, true stuff. I agree. Just meant that both had potentials. Both veteran playing in EPL at least. I understand. Stav said that here is a prediction. Kennedy to Lyon, Emerson back to Chelsea. So yeah, you never know. Kennedy, I don't know. When I saw Kennedy at Chelsea, I know this guy was full of talent, but I don't know what fell off from. Look, can you imagine Oscar just turned 30 years and see how young he was when he had that move to China? Oscar is now he's gonna be moved. I think he's moving back from China to somewhere, and it looks like Barcelona have an interest in buying Oscar. I know. I also heard that the Chinese government have lowered their wages that they're giving out to players, so it's making it very difficult for those European players are on big wages moving back to Europe. What's your take on that? Also,
Yeah, I think it's one of those. I don't know the full ins and outs of the situation in China, but my understanding is that they have brought in new laws
yeah,
that limit the amount of pay that
player,
European players can get, which is why they moved to China in the first place. You saw, like all the Oscars and the Hulks of the world and players like that who moved over. So, I'd be surprised if Barca brought him back because Barca also don't have any money. And I don't know how they're getting these deals done with like Ferran Torres and
Ferran
people
Torres.
like
Yeah,
that. He
no,
was announced to
this
go
is
on.
what happened. They just sold in TT. They sold in TT. That's where they were able to release some of the wage bill. They took some of the money off because TT is now gone, and they're thinking of releasing what's his name also, Serginho Dest. So I think that is what they're trying to do.
Yeah, they're basically selling players and like Umtiti, I think he's not left, but he's taken a pay cut on his contract, just to stay at Barcelona, but he's on way less money now, which is it's just a bit embarrassing really watching Barcelona. Like they officially announced Torres as like a registered player today,
Yeah,
rather than like a signed
a
player. Like he
signing player.
signed ages ago, but yeah, he's only just registered, and it's just embarrassing. So I mean, it's good for Oscar. I'd love to see Oscar back in Europe. He was a really good player back in the day, but I don't know if Barcelona's really the right fit for him. But fair enough. It'd be
Yeah,
good if he goes.
yeah. Sidiraki said I read report I read was Tuchel wants Kennedy, but it says in another he is going back out on loan. I don't know. Kennedy's situation is being is a bit confusing. Interest. This coming from Stephen Cost. He said interesting stuff. Unfortunately, I can't see it happening. So yeah. So guys, QB he gave me 1 hour of his time. We've gone beyond it. I don't want to abuse that time that he's given me. So we're gonna end the stream here. so we can have other stuff doing. And also, guys, don't forget we have the watch along here. It's just fun. You can just stop over. Let's have fun by the having the watch along going on here. So as Chelsea kick off very soon, the Carabao Cup semi-final second leg, and the goals and within couple minutes or hours, an hour and a half or something. So yeah, guys, don't forget, like the video, share the video as we keep growing, getting close to 1,000 subscribers. And then we want to say thank you to QB, and an amazing guys. If you don't know this guy, he's a legend. He's a legend in the Chelsea community. So if you don't know him, Chrissy Bacon, is it Baker? Is it Chrissy Baker, right? QB?
Yeah.
Chrissy Baker. I said Bacon. I'm sorry for just
Yeah,
messing
all
up
good.
your name. QB, it's
No
a
worries.
very big guy, very respectful guy in the Chelsea community. So if you don't know him, he's on Twitter. You can follow him up and read some of his articles and tweets. I get his tweets all the time, and they're very interesting and very knowledgeable. Yeah, yeah, very knowledgeable guy in the community. So anytime he doesn't have much time, but I'm able to hold him today to come and give us his perspective of what is going on transfer window as it's been open. And yeah, he honored my invitation. Come on and talk to us. So yeah, we've been educated today by QB, and we want to say thank you very much, brother, for coming on, and really appreciate it. We hope to see you more in the next stream or the next videos that we do. Guys, thank you for being here. You guys have been wonderful in the chat. To Mikhail, Stephen Kosti, Sidaraki, all of you wants to thank you. I123 love you. Thank you very much for tuning in and listening to the bullshit that we said over here. It could be educative to someone. Someone just came up and told me it's boring, but it depends on the kind of person. And I don't care if you put a dislike on the video, at least someone is getting some education from it. It means that people are watching. If someone comes in and dislike it, it means that the video is trended, it's going places. So I want to tell that person for spending time over here with me, who at least I was boring, but then he spent almost 20 minutes listening to the boring stuff that I was saying here. Thank you. And then thank you, QB, for your time. We'll see you in the next stream.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go and research Kennedy now, so
Yeah.
I can get all the information.
Yeah. All right. You have a good one, brother.
Thank you.
So guys, there we have QB in the stream, and he gave us his honest opinion on what is going on, transfer news, and then what we have to do to get a good left back to fill in that gap. So yeah, we'll see you guys again very soon in the watch along. Leo Desperando, as usual, like I said. Thank you, Mikhail. It is goodbye. Good guest. Thank you. We're looking forward to bringing more guests from now onwards. I'm also trying to use this StreamYard so it'll be easy for you guys to come on and then have your say. Seems the StreamYard is a bit more easy for everyone here to tune in. Staff said UEFA are implementing salary cap. Wow, this is something that I have to bring. Staff, I have to bring you on so you can be one of our wonderful guests on the stream that people would like to have your insight. They know you're a legend as a Chelsea fan. So yeah, we'll be looking forward to that also. So see you guys again in the next stream. Bye bye.